Hi, everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Forgive my voice today. I'm dealing with severe allergies, and this is the best it's been in a while, so we're just going to go with it. I'm going to try not to cough and all that stuff, so we'll get through it, though. Today, we are going to make some enchiladas. We're going to go to Mexico. We're going to make some beef enchiladas. To go alongside that, we're going to make some easy, quick, just side dishes of beans and rice, which typically when you're in a Mexican restaurant, those are the side dishes that come with it. And these are all, pretty standard ingredients that many of us have in our pantries at home. If not, they're easily found in any grocery store. And we're going to start with the beans, actually. Now, this is just 1 can of refried beans that I have just put in a pie dish because I'm going to top it with this. This is queso fresco cheese, which is a Mexican crumbling cheese. You can find it in the cheese section of the grocery store. Sometimes they have a little section of just Mexican ingredients. If you don't have this, any white cheese would be fine. You could put, Monterey Jack or just any kind of cheese is fine. Mexican crema would be fine. But we're just going to take some of this cheese and we're going to crumble it on top of the beans. You don't have to do this. You can just heat the beans if you want to. But I think this adds a layer of flavor and just deliciousness to the beans. Just kind of crumble it up with your hands. I am going to top it with some foil. And I'm just putting this in the oven to keep warm, or to warm up, actually, while we are making our dishes. So I'm just going to put this in the oven, and I don't think my oven, well, it heated the wrong one. So we'll just use the bottom oven. That's okay. Just put that in there and let it bake for just a few minutes. We can use the rest of this on our enchiladas if we want to. For the moment, I'm just going to set it over there. Now, we're going to get started on the beef fajitas. I'm choosing beef fajitas. If you want to make ground chicken, you can. You can use, if you're vegetarian and you want to use tofu, crumble it up. Up to you. I'm just using some ground beef. I have here 2 pounds of very lean ground beef. I'm just going to brown this up in a skillet. Just let that, brown up to cook. In the meantime, I have a pot here. We're going to make some rice that I'm going to turn on and get warmed up. I'm going to add some oil to it in just a minute. And we are going to add some onion to our rice. I'm just going to use half of a white onion, but you can use whatever kind you want. This is just what I have. Any kind of onion would be fine. If you don't have any onion, you could leave it out. You could use onion powder if you want. Up to you and what your tastes are. I am going to kind of finely mince this because not everybody likes chunks of onion, but they like that flavor. So we're just going to mince this with our knife, just kind of fine. I don't want too much, just a little bit of the onion flavor. Let's put some oil in our pot, maybe a tablespoon of, I'm using olive oil. And we're going to brown our onion up a little bit in our mixture here. Let me get a little spatula. I think I'll need to turn this one up just a little bit. We're just going to soften this onion. And then we will add in our rice. Now, on our enchiladas, I have that browning, and I'm just going to use a baking dish, just a long baking dish. You could use, this is a great freezer meal. or a meal that you could take to someone, or if you're going to a potluck or something like that. You could use the disposable aluminum pans if you wanted. I'm just using some store-bought enchilada sauce, and I'm going to put a base of that in the bottom of my pan, and just to keep it from sticking. Let's check our beef here. Our onions are doing good. Brown this up. Now I am using today, I'm just going to use, I found this in my grocery store, just a bag of yellow rice. But you could use any kind of rice you wanted. If you wanted to just use white rice or brown rice, go right ahead, whatever kind you want. I'm just using this because it was what was available at my store. And we, sometimes we just have to go with what we can find. And this is actually delicious. It is Spanish rice, but you could use white rice. Whatever you want is fine. We just want to brown up this beef. We're going to multitask a little bit. I love enchiladas. It's just one of those dishes that's so easy to make, but yet so good. Everyone in my family likes them. So it's a menu staple in my house. Now, we just want to kind of soften up these onions. To this, we're going to add some garlic powder and some paprika. I like to add the spices before I add the liquid. You know that. Now let's get a little salt and pepper. Bring them over here. Going to add about half a teaspoon of just freshly cracked pepper and about a teaspoon of salt. Then I'm going to add one small can. This is an 8-ounce can of tomato paste. And then the contents of my bag of rice. Now, if you're not going to use the tomato paste, you need 2.5 cups of water for this particular kind of rice. But because I am using some tomato paste, which, constitutes a little liquid, I'm going to go shy of that 2.5 cups, and I'm just going to add a couple of cups of water. If you wanted to use chicken broth, you could, would be fine. And then bring that up to a simmer and turn it down and let it go. My rice needs to cook for like 25 minutes. Yours may vary. It depends on the kind of rice that you're using. You just read your package directions, whatever that would be. I'm just going to brown this up and drain off the fat off of this. And when I come back, we will get started on finishing up the filling and getting the enchiladas ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to clean up a little bit, brown this and drain it, and when I come back, we'll finish up the enchiladas. Be back in just a minute. All right, now I just brought this to a simmer and covered it. All I did was brown the ground beef and put it back in the skillet. That's all I did. Now, I want to chop this up a little finer. I can't find my little chopper, I don't know where it's at. Somewhere, you know, the little meat thing we always use, but it's okay. We can just use this flat spatula. Now, we are going to add into our meat mixture. I have here some chili powder, some garlic powder, some onion powder, and some oregano. Oregano is used a lot in Mexican cooking. Quite a bit. Then I'm going to add a little salt and pepper, about a teaspoon of salt. This is a half a teaspoon measure, and about half a teaspoon of pepper. I like to, you know how I do my pepper, because I like the freshly ground. I buy whole peppercorns, grind them in my little spice grinder, you know, for a few days, and then put them in here. Tastes wonderful. I like to stir in the spices before I add the liquid because that blooms them, that allows the flavors, which are oil soluble most of the time, to come out into their full flavor before we add in any liquid. It really does make a difference. Then I'm going to add 1 can of chopped green chilies. If you don't want it spicy, then you don't have to add the green chilies, but I like spicy food, so I am adding them. We're going to stir that together. Now, I don't want this liquidy, so to speak, but I do want to have a little bit of liquid in there. You could either add some tomato sauce, or, I mean, I have these, so I'm just going to add a little bit, maybe half a cup of my enchilada sauce. Oop, I got a piece of our beef. And that's it for the meat mixture. Just stir it together. You don't need to simmer it because it's going to cook in the oven. Okay, now let's go back over here to the cutting board and talk about our, let me put this over here where I can work a little bit. I don't want to burn my counter. All right, now let's set up our workstation. Remember, we have our pan that we put a little bit of the enchilada sauce in. Now, I am using the low-carb tortillas. You can use whatever you like, but I love these. This is the, forgive me if I say this wrong, La Banderita carb counter low-carb tortillas. Each tortilla has 4 carbs, as opposed to, you know, probably, I don't know, anywhere from 15 to 20 in regular tortillas. And I like these. They really are very, very good. You want to set yourself up a workstation. So what I do is put, usually I work in batches of 4. And I will put down a little bit of cheese. I'm just using a Mexican blend. You can use whatever you want. We could even put, matter of fact, we'll put that on top. Let's bring that back over here. Our not hotica, but our queso cheese. Put a little bit of your cheese on the bottom. And then, oh, I didn't get a scooper. Let me get a little scoop over here. Let's just use this. This is a 1/4 of a cup measure. But you can fill them. Don't overfill them, but, you know, just put some of your meat on the center of each one. Little bit of a messy process, but that's okay. It's worth it in the end. These are really good. All right. Now, what we will do is fold them. Now, what I do is take the bottom edge of my tortilla, fold it over, kind of pull it back a little bit. You can see how I'm pulling that back a little bit, and roll them up and put it seam side down in your pan. Fold it over, kind of, you can see I'm pulling it back just a little bit to kind of push that filling back and make it a little more compact. Seam side down. You could add some beans to this if you wanted to add some black beans or pinto beans or whatever kind. If you wanted to just use beans and not use meat, do the same thing. Just heat them up, add the spices, and roll them up. You could totally make bean enchiladas. That'd be delicious. Okay. I like to put a little cheese inside. That kind of, for lack of a better term, glues it together. It's yummy. You could add some corn to this, would be delicious. If you wanted to have some corn in there. I mean, really, the possibilities are endless. This is just a base recipe for you. Okay, we'll put some more of our meat mixture in here. So good. And they're better than what you can get in a Mexican restaurant. I will say that. And I like Mexican food a lot. There are certain foods I like better. This is one of them. I love tacos. And I love fajitas. Whoa, so good. Okay. We will get these in there. Clean hands, your best tool. Okay, now, after you get them in the pan, what you want to do is top them with some more enchilada sauce. If you want to use green enchilada sauce, by all means, you can get that. That's made of tomatillos as opposed to red tomatoes. It's good. I prefer the red, but you get what you like. You want to kind of cover them. I'm going to make another little dish of these, but you just want them to kind of have a little bit of the cover on there. And then I like to top it with my cheese again. I'm just using a blend, but you could use sharp cheddar, you could use Monterey Jack, whatever you like is perfectly fine. And then, because I have it, I'm going to top it with some of the queso cheese, because I have some, so why not use it? This, by the way, this cheese, if you have some corn on the cob and you want to grill that corn on the cob or just cook it however you like it, I like it grilled, and then butter it and then sprinkle some of this over top. Oh, it's so good. And you find this particular cheese in the dairy section with the other cheeses. Sometimes they will have a separate little section in there with Mexican ingredients, different cheeses and things. And that's all there is to that. We put that in an oven. Don't cover it or anything. We're going to pop it in the oven for about 20 minutes, and they will be done. I'm just going to make use the rest of this in another little dish. And when I come back, we'll finish up this, and I'll show you how to serve it. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now everything is cooked. I want to show you how we serve this meal. I just took a little bit of the rice out and put it on my bowl. This part is totally optional. However, I like to add a little bit of flavor, so I'm going to add a little bit of lime zest over top of my rice. Just adds a little bit of zing. I like the freshness of citrus in my food. Not too much, just a little bit. Totally optional. Now, here is our bean dish. Remember, we did the refried beans, and we just topped it with a little bit of the queso cheese. So we want to add a little bit of the refried beans. And then here are our wonderful enchiladas. Now, they're hot. They just came out of the oven. I'm going to take this one. Let me move it. I don't want to burn myself because I literally just took this out of the oven. I just made a separate little pan because I had enough ingredients to do that with. I think a serving of this is if you're doing the rice and the beans, 2 is plenty enough. So what I like to do is just take a couple of spatulas on either side and lift them. You might want to go around the edge, make sure the tortillas are going to come out. And lift them onto your plate. Can be a little messy. That's okay. So good. Those are so good. And here's where you can use your creativity. Think about what you like on your tacos, on your burritos, whatever, fajitas. You can do anything. You could do sour cream. Some people like sour cream on theirs. I personally don't, but some people do. So we'll top it with just a little bit of sour cream. I don't think you need any more cheese, but if you wanted more cheese, by all means, you could add a little more of your cheese, but there's plenty in there. You do, I mean, obviously it's optional, but I don't think it is. You got to have a little bit of a lime squeeze on there. It just does something. It adds freshness. It adds the citrus flavor. So what I like to do is just take a lime. Always roll your limes and your lemons like this on your cutting board or your counter, wherever, because that loosens up the juices. So what I like to do is take a little bit of a lime wedge and squeeze that juice on there, because it does really add a lot of wonderful flavor. You could even put a little bit on your rice if you wanted. Up to you. Now, for me, lettuce is not optional. I like to have that crunch, because if you look at your plate, you have all smooth textures here, which is fine. It's delicious. However, I like to have a little bit of a texture contrast. So for me, I like to top mine with some lettuce. Let me get a knife. Just kind of chop this a little finer. This is just salad mix that you buy in the store. It adds crunch, it adds flavor. This is romaine because that's what I like. If you want iceberg, use iceberg. Up to you. Whatever kind you like. But you want something with a crunch, because you really do want that texture difference in the dish itself. Now, I would serve mine if I was eating it at home. I would just pile it on top of that. But because I'm presenting it here for you, I'll just put it on the side. And then if you wanted to treat that as a salad, you totally could. I would just take my lime, squeeze a little bit of lime on there if you want, and I do. Maybe a little bit of freshly ground pepper, up to you. And to make it a salad, maybe a drizzle of olive oil, whatever you want. And there you go. You have a delicious, easy meal that you could make from start to finish. I mean, all of this could be made in 30 to 40 minutes. It really is not difficult, but you could totally make the enchiladas ahead, pop them in the freezer. They make a great freezer meal. So even if you're just cooking for one or two, I would go ahead and make the full recipe, maybe divide it into those smaller foil type pans and pop it in your freezer. And then when you're ready to cook, take it out, let it thaw overnight, pop it in your oven, and you've got dinner done. So there you go. These are some great and easy meals. We made some enchiladas, some beef enchiladas, and feel free to substitute ground chicken, ground turkey, beans, whatever you wanted inside. We just took some canned refried beans and topped them with a little bit of the crumble cheese, the queso cheese that you crumble on top. It just adds some flavor and just deliciousness. And typically in a Mexican restaurant, you see this on top of your beans. And then we just made some Mexican rice. I used yellow rice, but you can use whatever kind of rice you wanted. We sauteed a little bit of onion, we spiced it up, added some tomato sauce, and there you go. If you don't have tomato sauce, you could use, maybe 8 ounces or so of chopped tomatoes would be fine, canned tomatoes, whatever you want, or leave it out and just make the yellow rice. But you want some kind of a rice. And there you go. You could serve it with guacamole if you wanted, avocado, pico de gallo, salsa. I have some salsa in the fridge for anybody that wants that. And there you go, a wonderful, delicious, and easy meal that you can make any day of the week. Thank you for going to Mexico with me, and I will see you next time on Everyday Manna.